Good morning, dear students. As yesterday we have discussed about the numericals that are based on the molar conductivity at infinite dilution. Now let's see the next question. The conductivity of a saturated solution of silver chloride is 1.24 into 10 raised to the power minus 6 ohm inverse centimeter inverse. Means you have been given the value of kappa here. The ionic conductivities of Ag ion and Cl ion at infinite dilution are 53.8 and 65.3 ohm inverse centimeter square mole inverse. So that is being given to you, the ionic conductivities of Ag ion and Cl ion. What you have to calculate the solubility of AgCl in gram per liter. You have been given the molar mass of AgCl as 143.5. Now let's see. It means first we have to calculate the lambda naught m for AgCl. That is the molar conductivity of AgCl at infinite dilution with the help of ionic conductivities given to us at infinite dilution of Ag ion and Cl ion. So through the Kohlrausch law, it is the sum of both the ionic conductivities. So it would be 119.1 ohm inverse centimeter square mole inverse. Now we know that lambda m is equal to kappa into 1000 upon m. That is the molar conductivity of any electrolyte. Now we have written lambda naught m is equal to kappa into 1000 upon m. Why it is so? We have written the molar conductivity at infinite dilution would be equal to specific conductivity into 1000 upon m, or we may write it the solubility also. Why it is so? As the solubility of a sparingly soluble salt can be determined by the Kohlrausch law. That is also one of the application, that by the Kohlrausch law we can calculate the solubility of a sparingly soluble salt like AgCl, BaCl2, etc. It means at infinite dilution for a saturated solution, we know that the sparingly soluble are like a weak electrolyte which dissociate very less in their solvent. So in that case what we will see, they would be dissociated, or they would be observed to be dissociated completely at infinite dilution. So it would be treated like a weak electrolyte. So when the dissociation would be complete, so they form the saturated solution at that time, then no more solute would be dissolved. For the saturated solution, their concentration is equal to their solubility. It means whatever the concentration at that time would be considered as the solubility for such a solution. So we may write that lambda m is equal to lambda naught m, means molar conductivity can be calculated as the molar conductivity for the infinite dilution would be equal to kappa into 1000 upon solubility in place of molarity. It means their concentration would be considered as solubility at that particular time. So we can put this formula, and here as we have calculated the value of lambda naught m for AgCl, it would be 119.1. In the formula we can consider lambda m as lambda naught m, and specific conductivity is given in the question in 2000 upon m. M is the molarity, or being write as solubility. So we have to calculate the solubility, that is the molarity here, would be equal to 1.04 into 10 raised to the power minus 5. By calculation we can calculate this as mole per liter, but in the question we have been asked for the gram per liter. So to convert it into the gram per liter, we are to multiply it by molar mass. By the formula, as we know, moles is equal to mass upon molar mass. We have to calculate in mass, so mass would be equal to mole into molar mass. So you would be getting the answer in the gram per liter. It means that is also one of the application of the Kohlrausch law. Now let's see the next question, in which we have merged number of application of the Kohlrausch law. Let's see the question. Molar conductivities at infinite dilution at 298 Kelvin for ammonium chloride, sodium hydroxide, sodium chloride are given to us as 129.8, 217.4, 108.9 ohm inverse centimeter square mole inverse respectively. If the molar conductivity is of a centimolar solution, that is a concentration of the solution given to us, that is 0.01 m. Centimolar means 1 upon 100 molar. Of ammonium hydroxide is 9.33 ohm inverse centimeter square mole inverse. That is the molar conductivity of ammonium hydroxide solution. What is the percentage dissociation of ammonium hydroxide at this concentration? And also we have to calculate the dissociation constant for ammonium hydroxide. Means we have to calculate the value of alpha in percentage for ammonium hydroxide. We have to calculate the dissociation constant also for ammonium hydroxide. So for that we first be knowing the lambda naught m for ammonium hydroxide. So by applying Kohlrausch law we can calculate the lambda naught m for ammonium hydroxide. We can say that lambda naught m for ammonium hydroxide would be equal to lambda naught ammonium ion plus lambda naught OH ion. That can be calculated by making three equation by given information, as we have been given the lambda naught m for ammonium chloride, sodium hydroxide and NaCl. So for lambda naught m ammonium chloride we may write lambda naught m ammonium ion plus lambda naught Cl ion. For NaOH, lambda naught Na ion plus lambda naught OH ion, and lambda naught m for NaCl, that is lambda naught Na ion plus lambda naught Cl ion. So by these three equations we can conclude our resultant is lambda naught ammonium ion plus lambda naught OH ion. For this we are to sum up equation 1 and 2. Now we are to exclude these lambda naught Na ion and lambda naught Cl ion. It means we are to subtract the third equation. So equation 1 plus equation 2 minus equation 3 will give us the resultant lambda naught m for ammonium hydroxide by the Kohlrausch law. So we may write lambda naught m ammonium hydroxide would be equal to lambda naught m ammonium chloride plus lambda naught m NaOH minus lambda naught m NaCl. By placing the value, we would be able to find out the answer as 238.3 ohm inverse centimeter square mole inverse, that is the lambda naught m for ammonium hydroxide. Now what we have to calculate? We have to calculate the value of alpha and its dissociation constant. So how to calculate the percentage degree of dissociation? Yesterday we have discussed that alpha can be calculated by lambda mc and lambda naught m, means molar conductivity at a particular concentration or molar conductivity at infinite dilution into 100. You have to calculate the percentage degree of dissociation. The degree of dissociation can be calculated like this. Into 100 would be the percentage degree of dissociation. So we would be getting the answer as 3.9%, or we may say 3.9 into 10 raised to the power minus 2 would be the value of alpha. Now what we have to calculate? We have to calculate the value of dissociation constant. We know that dissociation constant is equal to C alpha square upon 1 minus alpha. The concentration is being given to us as centimolar, means m by 100 means 0.01 mole per liter. The value of alpha, as I have told you, is 3.9 into 10 raised to the power minus 2. That is the value of alpha. The percentage of alpha is 3.9%. So it would be 3.9 into 10 raised to the power minus 2 whole square upon 1 minus alpha, means 1 minus 3.9 into 10 raised to the power minus 2. After calculation, we would be getting the answer as 1.57 into 10 raised to the power minus 5 mole per liter. So like this, we can do number of questions based on the molar conductivity at infinite dilution. We can see the applications of Kohlrausch law, and with the help of this we can solve the number of questions. So dear students, I suggest you attempt as many questions you can. These are very simple questions. It is like a lottery if you will getting the question in board examination based on this topic. It is very simple. Now let's move to the next topic, that is the electrochemical cell or the voltaic or galvanic cell. In the starting of the chapter of the electrochemistry, I have told you that there are two type of cells, electrolytic cells and the electrochemical cells. These are the voltaic and the galvanic cell. To the electrolytic cell we have discussed. To the concentration cell we will discuss later on. Now let's see what are the electrochemical cell. I have given you the overview regarding both of the cells, and I have told you that electrochemical cells are the spontaneous cells, or you may say that the Gibbs free energy for this cell is negative, while in case of electrolytic cell we have seen that is that the non-spontaneous cell, and in that case del G's value is positive. Now we have said electrochemical cell or voltaic cell or galvanic cell. Why they have been given this name? These names are given after the name of the scientists who have done the experiment at the very first time. They are the Luigi Galvani and Alessandro Volta. Now before starting the working of the voltaic cell, let's see what are the direct redox reaction and what are the indirect redox reaction. As I have told you, we have take benefit from the spontaneous redox reaction. So the spontaneous redox reaction can be seen by the direct redox reaction, in which we are to see the redox reaction in a single beaker. For example, suppose I have taken a beaker in which I have taken a copper sulfate as an electrolyte and zinc rod as an electrode. So what will happen between zinc and copper? Zinc is having the tendency to get oxidized in comparison to copper, while copper being reduced. So let's see here, the zinc rod would get oxidized by de-electronation, and zinc ion will move towards the solution, and electrons are being used by the copper sulfate solution, and copper ion will get reduced and get deposit on this zinc rod. In the similar manner, if suppose I am taking copper rod in silver nitrate solution, in this case copper would be get oxidized and copper ion will move towards the solution, and silver ion after taking electron, means by electronation, is being deposit on the copper rod. So here we are able to see one is getting oxidized and other is getting reduced, means spontaneous redox reaction is taking place. Here what we will observe, in both the reaction, the chemical energy is being converted into heat energy, and the beaker would be a bit hot when we observe. So when a redox reaction takes place directly in a single beaker, chemical energy in the form of heat is observed. For the reaction we see that del G is equal to negative, and del G is the Gibbs free energy, that is the useful work, that is to be converted into useful work. But here we are not able to convert it into the useful work. So what we are to do? We are to see the indirect redox reaction. If we convert this direct redox reaction to the indirect redox reaction, we would be able to utilize this Gibbs free energy into converting it into the electrical energy. Now let's see what we are to do. If suppose we are doing this spontaneous redox reaction into different beakers, by which this chemical energy can be converted into electrical energy, would be known as the indirect redox reaction. Means when we physically separate the oxidizing agent to the reducing agent. The oxidizing agent is that is being reduced and oxidized other, and the reducing agent is that is being oxidized and reduced other. Means in the case zinc and copper sulfate, zinc rod is being oxidized, it means it is working like a reducing agent and it is working like a oxidizing agent. So when we are physically separating these oxidizing agent to the reducing agent, and then the electron transfer take place via external circuit. Here the electron is transferring itself in the single beaker, but when the same process is to be done by an external circuit and these electrons are transferred through the external circuit, so electricity can be produced. So now we can conclude what are the electrochemical cell. That is the device that is used to convert chemical energy produced in a redox reaction into electrical energy, is known as the galvanic cell. Or we may also say the device in which the redox reaction is carried indirectly. As I have told you, we are to separate the oxidizing agent to the reducing agent, and we are to transfer the electron through the external circuit. So a device in which the redox reaction is carried indirectly and the decrease in free energy appear as the electrical energy. Now we are using this decrease in free energy to convert it into the electrical energy is known as the electrochemical cell or the voltaic cell or the galvanic cell. Now let's see the apparatus used for the following. Means we are seeing the working of the voltaic cell. So what is a voltaic cell? In which we have converts the direct redox reaction to the indirect redox reaction. Now in the case we have taken two beaker, in which in one we are to take zinc rod, in other we are to take copper rod. The zinc is to be taken in a zinc sulfate solution and copper is to be taken in a copper sulfate solution. Means we are to take the electrolyte of the same electrode that we are taking. Means to the zinc in zinc sulfate solution of the same metal electrolyte and copper in the copper sulfate solution. And now it is being connected through a wire by a voltmeter. Now let's see what will happen if we are taking this apparatus only, or in place of voltmeter we have taken a bulb. We will see whether the electricity would be produced or not by this chemical change. Means chemical energy is being converted into electrical energy, and when will the bulb glow or not. Rest of we have not taken. Now let's see the working of this cell. What will happen? Zinc would be oxidized and move towards the solution in the form of zinc ion by de-electronation. And due to the de-electronation, the number of electrons would be there on this zinc rod. As it is getting the number of electrons, so the rod would be negatively charged, and as the oxidation process is taking place here, in the starting of the chapter I told you that oxidation always takes place at anode. Oxidation always takes place at anode, so the negatively charged rod would work like a anode. And now as the number of electrons would be collected over here, so the number of electron will push the forward electron to move forward in the cell. So now the electron will move through the wire to the next rod, that is of copper, and the copper ion in the solution after electronation would be reduced. So as reduction being taking place here, so it work like a cathode and would be positively charged. So the rod would be positively charged. So the number of copper ion would be reduced here. So now we are able to see as electron is flowing from anode to cathode, so the current will flow to cathode to anode and the bulb will glow. If suppose we have taken bulb here, the bulb will glow, but that would be for an instant. Why it is so? Why it will not glow forever? Because here we are able to see that zinc being oxidized and zinc ion means positive charge would be accumulated around it in the similar manner as we have taken copper sulfate solution here, and copper ion is being reduced on the copper rod and get deposited, but the sulfite ion would being collected, means negative charge would be accumulated here at the cathode. So due to the accumulation of these charges, the flow of electron would be stopped and further current will not flow and bulb will not glow. Means the process would be there for an instant only. Now what will happen? So we are to take the salt bridge here. What is it? It is a salt bridge. You may write here. It is a salt bridge. In this salt bridge, it is an inverted U tube, that is having the cotton plugs at both the ends, by which the flow of electrolyte would not be there in the salt bridge. In the salt bridge, we have taken a paste of concentrated KCl or NaCl or K2SO4 in agar-agar solution, that is like a semi-solid paste. These all are the inert electrolytes that will not being participate in the reaction, means will not react with the electrolyte present in both the beakers. They are inert in nature. The another feature of these inert electrolyte is they migrate from the same speed in the electrolytic solution, means cation and anion will migrate with the similar speed in the solution. So now what will happen if we are taking the salt bridge here? The first thing, if we are not taking the salt bridge, the circuit is not being completed. Only the flow of electron will once would be there from anode to cathode, but the circuit is not complete. So the first significance of salt bridge is it complete the electric circuit by allowing the ions to flow from one solution to other without mixing the two solution, means that is being completed the electric circuit. Now what we have written, it allow the ions to flow from one solution to other without mixing two solution, means as I have told you that here the accumulation of the positive charge due to zinc ion and here the accumulation of negative charge due to sulfate ion would be there. No electrical neutrality is there in the solution, so there would not be any flow of electron and no flow of current would be there. But when the accumulation of zinc ion, means positive charge would be there from the salt bridge, the similar cation anion would be migrate towards this beaker, towards the anode, and the migration of cation would be there towards the cathode or this beaker, because we are having the accumulation of negative charge here. So positive ion will migrate and neutralize this, and in the similar manner as the accumulation of positive charges here, so cation will migrate from the electrolyte and will neutralize the zinc ion produced or accumulate as a charge over here. So like this, it maintain the electrical neutrality and the flow of electron would not be restricted, so the flow of current would be there in the voltaic cell. So that is the next significance. It maintain the electrical neutrality, and it also prove that it allow the ions to flow from one solution to another without mixing the two solution, because we don't want to mix both the solution, so it gets separate the solution. It don't mix the solution. Without mixing, it maintain the neutrality as well as it complete the circuit. The third and the very most important significance of the salt bridge is it prevents liquid-liquid junction potential. What is the liquid-liquid junction potential? That is the potential difference that develops between two solutions when they are in direct contact with each other. So let's see. If suppose we have taken the voltaic cell like this, we may form a porous separation between these two solutions by which only the flow of ion would be there from one solution to another. Still, because the speed of migration of ions in both the solution are different, so there would be the potential difference developed between the interface of these two liquids, that is known as the liquid-liquid junction potential, which interrupt the working of the cell. So the salt bridge prevent this liquid-liquid junction potential, and the interruption of the flow of electron would be stopped. And like this, these are the significances of the salt bridge that is helpful for the working of the voltaic cell. Now let's again come to the working of the voltaic cell. As I have told you that zinc after de-electronation will migrate towards the zinc ion and electron will flow in the circuit. from the anode to the cathode, so the electricity, the current would flow from the cathode to anode. Here we are able to see, as zinc is migrating to the solution, so the mass of the zinc rod would be decreased, and as copper ion get deposit on the copper rod, so the mass of copper would be increased in the case. As the zinc is moving to the in the form of zinc ion to the solution, the concentration of zinc ion would be increased, and the concentration of copper ion, the electrolyte, would be decreased in the solution. So now the electron will flow from anode to cathode, and the current will flow from cathode to anode in the solution, and with the help of salt bridge we are maintaining the electrical neutrality, as well as we have completed the circuit as well. So we are able to see at anode the zinc is oxidized by de-electronation. At cathode, these electrons are being utilized to get reduced copper ion to copper. So it may be said as that this electrochemical cell contains two cell reactions. One is the oxidation half reaction and other is the reduction half reaction, that form the overall cell reaction as Zn plus copper sulfate gives ZnSO4 plus copper. So like this we can convert this spontaneous redox reaction chemical energy to the electrical energy, and this is the working of the voltaic cell. And here we are able to see, as in electrolytic cell, the anode was positive and cathode was negative, while in this case the anode is negative and cathode is positive. What you are to remember? You are to remember only that at anode only oxidation is taking place. Why it is getting the negative charge, you are able to see. Why there in the electrolytic cell at anode positive charge is there, which we have seen. So what we are to remember, that at anode only oxidation is taken place, and to form the electrochemical cell you are to remember a word, that is LOAN, LOAN, means left side oxidation, and anode is always negative. Means whenever you are to frame a electrochemical cell, what you are to remember, you are to take left side anode, and at anode oxidation is taking place, and that would always be negative in case of electrochemical cell. So now make notes of this by yourself. The next thing, attempt number of numericals based on Kohlrausch law, and afterward we'll discuss about the representation of electrochemical cell, standard electrode potential and electrode potential, hydrogen electrode in the next lecture. Thank you.